A very warm welcome to everyone. I am Dr. Piku Chaudhary, and today I will be speaking on reading difficulties or disabilities. Reading is a very important and integral part of human life, not only for classroom teaching learning, but for acquiring knowledge as well as day-to-day functioning in our workplace and elsewhere. However, many people struggle with reading, and there are a wide range of reading difficulties, from those who are diagnosed with particular reading disabilities like dyslexia or learning disability, to the others who are just lagging behind and could benefit from some specialized assistance. Now, reading difficulties can be serious because it impacts a human being's daily life as well as the human being's performance in academic world and workplace. Now, what then is reading disorder? Reading disorder is a particular condition when a person has trouble reading words, and not only reading words, but also in understanding what the person has just read. So, it is important to remember that even if a person can read with fairly appropriate accuracy and fluency, still it can be termed as a reading disorder in case the person fails to comprehend properly what he or she has just read. Most reading difficulties result from specific differences in the way the brain processes written words, that is text. Usually, these differences are present from childhood, but they can also occur later in life due to some brain injury or brain trauma, a condition which we will discuss later and is commonly known as alexia. People with reading disorders have problems recognizing words that they already know, not new words, but familiar words. They can't recognize when they try to read them from printed or handwritten text. And also they have problems in understanding the text they are reading, just like I have said. They may also be poor spellers, so people having frequent spelling mistakes can be diagnosed as having a reading disorder. We must all remember that reading disorders are not a type of intellectual or developmental disorder, and they are by no means sign of a low IQ or unwillingness to learn. People with reading disorders sometimes have other learning disabilities, including problems with writing and numbers. Now then, what are the signs of reading difficulty? How will we identify people with reading difficulty? It's not that they won't be able to read properly only, but they will be having other signs, like they will be having difficulty in pronunciation, they will be having problems with word decoding, problems with fluency of reading in case they're reading aloud. As I mentioned, they will be having very poor reading comprehension and even remembering what they have read. Now, this is very interesting because memory, we will see later, has a direct connection with reading disorder. People with reading disability or disorder usually have poor working memory, which affects their reading, and they enter a vicious cycle because since they can't remember what they have read, that lack of information affects the subsequent reading and comprehension. And naturally, there will be slow rate when they're reading aloud. They will be ignoring punctuation marks very frequently when they're reading from a text. And sometimes these people will be reading in a flat monotone without any expression or intonation. And they will be confusing letters very frequently. Now let us quickly see what are the different or the most common types of reading disorder. Dyslexia is the most common reading disorder. It specifically impairs an individual's ability to read text, but they have normal intelligence. Their levels of reading are significantly lower than expected. Most reading problems are present from childhood, but they can also occur later, as I mentioned earlier. So that kind of reading disorder, which occurs later in life and is due to some brain injury or brain trauma, is called alexia. I have already said that. Now we will talk about another condition called hyperlexia, where people have advanced reading skills, but they have problem in understanding what they have read just then or what they have heard. They may also have many cognitive and social problems. Other people may have normal reading skills but have problems understanding reading words. So if a person is reading fairly accurately and fluently, we really cannot conclude that the person does not have a reading disorder. It depends whether he can grasp the meaning of what he has just read. Reading performance can be deeply impacted by impairments in many different areas or domains. What are they? They are decoding. Every word is a code, so decoding. Vocabulary, reading fluency, comprehension ability, inferencing, attention, and memory. So what is decoding? I just said that every word in any language is actually a code, and to read properly, we have to decode the text. It is the ability to sound out words by sound letter correspondence and blending the sounds so that the written text can be recognized and interpreted fully. It is a key component of phonological awareness and processing of an individual, which is a crucial factor for reading. Individuals struggling with decoding will often make errors, logical guesses based on context, and not really reading the word and understanding the full impact or the full meaning of that particular word. Alternatively, they may also rely on their memory, which will work for familiar words or text, but in that case, they will be referring to the memory they have associated with that particular word instead of really understanding what that word means in that particular text. Next is dyslexia. According to International Dyslexia Association, it's a language-based learning disability that involves many different symptoms involving students reading below the expected level for their age and even having difficulty forming sentences and finding the right words for expression. There are different types of dyslexia, and we will quickly just have a glance at the different most common forms. Phonological dyslexia, surface dyslexia, rapid automatic naming dyslexia, and double deficit dyslexia. What is phonological dyslexia? It is a difficulty with phonemic awareness, which is the ability to recognize the letter sounds in a word and then blending those individual letter sounds into a complete word with full meaning. It can be difficult to break words into syllables and connect letters and words to sounds, and so when the reader is trying to read, definitely there would be a struggle with pronunciation, reading, as well as comprehension. Surface dyslexia, what is that? It is more conspicuous because it is an inability to read words which are spelled differently from how they are pronounced. It is also sometimes called visual dyslexia because individuals with this condition have difficulty recognizing words by sight. It is very important to keep in mind that dyslexia does not involve any problem with the visual ability or visual input, or in simple terms, the eyesight of the individual. It is just due to a difference in the way the person's brain is processing the visual input from a text. Rapid automatic naming dyslexia is recognition of letters and numbers happening very slowly. The brain processing the visual input so slowly that the reader cannot read, cannot recognize the words, cannot read them with appropriate speed or normal speed. Double deficit dyslexia is when a person has two types of dyslexia clubbed together, and the two types which usually occur together are phonological dyslexia and rapid naming deficit dyslexia. Reading comprehension disorder is another type of reading difficulty in which a person has trouble understanding the meaning of words and passages in a text. It is also sometimes called SRCD or specific reading comprehension deficit by specialists. Now, what are the signs of this SRCD? The most prominent signs are challenges with basic reading skills like word recognition. These people will have problems in understanding the important ideas inherent in the passage they are reading. They will be frustrated very frequently with reading tasks. They will be not having much trouble or a very little trouble in reading aloud, but they might read with a little variance in tone, and they will not be remembering significant details of what they have read. Now, there is a very interesting connection between a reader's attention, reading fluency, and reading comprehension. There is a theory called automatization theory proffered by Laubach and Samuels, where they say that attention is a prerequisite for both reading fluency and reading comprehension. And so, efficient reading requires sustainable attention, and we can then conclude that people with conditions like ADHD or autism or various other conditions where attention is a big issue will definitely suffer from reading disability or disorders or difficulties. There is a limited attention model which they proffered, Laubach and Samuels, where they suggest that attention span required for reading is limited to the extent of attention used by the individual during the process of word recognition, and to have good comprehension, unused processing memory should be capable of rapid and accurate word recognition, which is impossible if there is inadequate attention. It is simply a graphical representation of the model that deals with the attention deficit that affects the reading. Now we come to another interesting part which I mentioned in the beginning, that how memory is very deeply connected with reading skill. Memory, that is working memory or short-term memory. Verbal short-term memory deficits are a common feature of people with reading problems. There are researches or previous work which suggests that the basis of short-term memory deficit or working memory deficit may involve limitations in phonetic coding, which is crucial for reading fluency and accuracy. Clinical neuropsychologist Matthew Kruger shows that in reading, strong working memory allows us to connect the text at hand with things that we already know, and so if there is a deficit there, then we will not be able to recognize words or text or read fluently. Thank you.